The weight of tissues. I still carry the teddy bear. His left ear is almost gone. The purple stitching that once spelled Ellie has faded to a ghost, and one eye hangs by a thread. I'm 17 now, old enough to know it's embarrassing, but I don't care. Some things are heavier than they look. His name is still Bear. Simple, honest, like the man who gave me permission to cry in public 10 years ago. Tonight, Bear sits on the passenger seat of my beat-up Civic while I drive through Boston's November rain toward the Aurelia Air headquarters. My phone keeps buzzing. Another notification from the support group I run. Kids in the Middle. We help children of divorce and kids who've lost someone. Tonight, a 13-year-old boy wrote that his dad canceled their weekend again. I answered the way I always do. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to be sad. Just don't disappear inside it. Funny how I can type those words for strangers, but sometimes still need to hear them myself. I park in the underground garage. Security knows me by now. They wave me through with tired smiles. Late night, Ellie? Something like that. The elevator rises too quietly. I clutch Bear tighter. In the reflection of the shiny doors, I look like a younger version of my mom. Same dark hair, same worried eyes, but I have Julian's height and, Mom says, his stubborn mouth. The top floor is mostly dark except for one office glowing like a lighthouse in a storm. I don't knock. Julian Cross sits behind a massive desk, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, staring at 3 monitors. At 48, he's still handsome in that sharp, expensive way, but the lines around his eyes have deepened. The snowstorm 10 years ago put gray in his hair early. The last 3 years of new challenges at Aurelia Air have carved deeper grooves. He doesn't notice me at first that I stand there in my yellow raincoat, the same color as the one I wore when I was 7, and watch the man who once cried in an airport lounge pretend the world isn't falling apart again. Dad, he startles, looks up. For a second, his face softens the way it used to when I was little and climbed into his lap during turbulence. Ellie, what are you doing here? It's almost midnight. I walk in and set Bear on the edge of his desk like evidence in a trial. I came to ask you a question I asked you once before. He leans back, already guarded. Sweetheart, it's been a long day. The European routes. You taught me grown-ups are allowed to cry in public, I say quietly. So why are you pretending again? The words land between us like that crumpled tissue with the crooked red heart he once accepted from my 7-year-old hand. Julian stares at me, really stares. Then he looks away, toward the floor-to-ceiling windows where rain streaks the glass like tears the city refuses to acknowledge. I'm not pretending, he says. You are. You're doing exactly what you did after the storm passed. You're disappearing into the company, so you don't have to feel anything. He rubs his forehead. Ellie, the board is pushing for major changes. We almost lost 2 major hubs last quarter. I'm trying to protect people's jobs. Your mother understands. Mom is exhausted. I cut in. She smiles at dinner and then cries in the bathroom with the water running, just like she used to before you. I hear it. I'm not 7 anymore. I know what that sound means. He flinches. I sit down across from him without being invited. Bear stays on the desk between us like a mediator. Do you remember the plane? I ask. The turbulence? When I asked if Claire was scared when she died. His jaw tightens. He nods once. You answered me. I continue. You told the truth even though it hurt. You held my hand and Mom's hand, and for a few minutes we were a family, even though we barely knew each other. That's the man I remember. Not this version who works until 2 in the morning and texts Mom running late every single night. Silence stretches. Finally he speaks, voice low. I'm trying to be better than I was with Claire. I don't want to fail this family too. So you're failing it differently instead? The words come out sharper than I meant. I soften my tone. Dad, you once told me adults say things because they're drowning, not because they mean them. You're drowning right now, and you're pulling away so we don't see you struggle. That's not protecting us. That's leaving us. He looks at Bear, really looks, reaches out and touches the threadbare ear the way he did 10 years ago when I offered him that tissue. I miss when it was simpler, he admits. When fixing things meant giving up my first-class seat or driving you both through snow to the hospital. Now the problems are bigger, and I'm terrified that if I stop moving, everything falls apart. I lean forward, then let it fall apart for one night. Come home. Mom made lasagna. She burned the edges the way you like. She's pretending she's fine too. You two are so busy protecting each other from the truth that you're breaking the family anyway. His eyes glisten. He doesn't wipe them. Good. I don't know how to do this halfway, Ellie. I only know how to go all in. Work, love, grief. I don't know balance. Then learn. I say, because I'm 17 and I'm tired of being the adult in the room. I run a support group for kids whose parents are too busy falling apart to notice them. I don't want to add myself to that list. He stands up slowly, walks around the desk, and pulls me into a hug. I'm tall enough now that my chin rests on his shoulder. He smells like expensive cologne and exhaustion. I'm sorry, he whispers. His voice cracks the way it did in the hospital hallway 10 years ago. I hug him back fiercely. I know, but sorry only matters if you change. We stay like that for a long time. The drive home is quiet. Julian follows in his car. I keep checking the rearview mirror like I'm 7 again, afraid he'll disappear. When we walk through the door of our townhouse in Beacon Hill, Mom is on the couch in her scrubs, half asleep with a medical journal open on her lap. She looks up and sees both of us. Her eyes widen. Julian? He sets his briefcase down by the door. Actually sets it down instead of carrying it straight to the study. I heard there was lasagna, he says softly. Mom's chin trembles. She stands up. For a moment, they just look at each other, the widow and the widower who somehow built a life together after a snowstorm. I burned the edges, she says. I know. They meet in the middle of the living room. Not a dramatic kiss. Just Julian resting his forehead against hers. Both of them breathing like they've been running for years. I slip upstairs with Bear, giving them the moment. But I don't go to my room right away. I stand at the top of the stairs and listen to my mother say, I thought you were leaving us the way you left everything else when it got hard. And my father answer, I'm terrified of losing you both. Every single day. So I worked harder instead of saying it. I close my eyes. Finally. The next morning, I wake to the smell of coffee and the low sound of conversation. Not argument. Conversation. I pad downstairs in my socks. Julian is at the kitchen table in a hoodie, something I haven't seen him wear in years. Mom is flipping pancakes. They both look like they've been crying, but in the good way, the relieved way. Morning, kiddo, Julian says. I set Bear in the empty chair at the table. You want pancakes too? Mom laughs, the sound watery but real. Bear gets the slightly burned one. Over breakfast, I tell them about the latest kids in the middle meeting. About the boy whose dad keeps canceling. About the girl who lost her mom to cancer and feels guilty for being angry. Julian listens. Really listens. He even takes notes on his phone. Not for work, but because he wants to remember. I'd like to come to one of your meetings, he says suddenly. If that's okay. I blink. You'd talk to them? He nods. I was the grown man crying in public once. Maybe I can tell them it's still okay 10 years later. My throat tightens. I look down at my plate so they don't see me tear up. Later that afternoon, we drive to the hospital to visit Grandpa Thomas. He's 81 now, frail but sharp-tongued as ever. When he sees the three of us together, actually together, his wrinkled face breaks into a smile. Well, I'll be damned, he rasps. Took you long enough, Julian. Dad squeezes his father's hand. I'm still learning, Dad. Thomas looks at me. And you little Miss Activist. Still carrying that ratty bear? Always. He chuckles. Good. Some things you don't outgrow. 2 weeks later, I stand in a community center basement with 20 kids between 8 and 16. The fluorescent lights buzz. Paper plates with half-eaten pizza sit on folding tables. Julian stands beside me, looking strangely nervous in jeans and a sweater. I introduce him simply. This is my dad. He owns an airline. But more importantly, 10 years ago, he cried in front of me at an airport when his dad was dying and he missed his wife. He's here to tell you what he learned. The room goes quiet. Julian clears his throat. I used to think strength meant never showing weakness. I was wrong. The strongest thing I ever did was let a 7-year-old girl see me cry. Because she taught me that pretending doesn't protect anyone. It only isolates you. A 14-year-old girl in the back raises her hand. Did it fix everything? No, Julian says honestly. My father still has bad days. My company still has problems. My marriage still needs work. But I'm here. I'm showing up. And that's something I couldn't say a few weeks ago. I watch the kids' faces change. The boy whose dad keeps canceling wipes his eyes. The girl who lost her mom sits up straighter. After the meeting, several kids come up to Julian. He listens to every single one, gives out his personal email, promises nothing except that he'll answer. On the drive home, I rest my head against the window, Bear in my lap. You did good, Dad. He glances over. I had a good teacher. That night, Mom and Julian sit on the back porch wrapped in one blanket, even though it's cold. I watch them from my bedroom window, Bear beside me on the sill. They're talking, not fixing, not planning, just talking. I pick up Bear and press my face into what's left of his fur. Thank you, I whisper to the stuffed animal who started everything, for being brave enough to walk up to a crying man in an airport. Outside, snow begins to fall softly, the first of the season. I smile. Some storms still come, but now we know how to sit through them together. Epilogue, 6 months later. I graduate high school in the spring. Julian is there in the audience, phone completely off. Mom holds his hand the entire time. After the ceremony, the three of us plus Grandpa Thomas go to the cemetery. We visit Claire's grave. Julian brings fresh flowers and finally, after all these years, reads her last voicemail out loud for all of us to hear. When he finishes, his voice is steady, but his eyes are wet. We don't hide the tears. Later, at dinner, I raise my water glass. To grown-ups who cry in public. Julian clinks his glass against mine. And to little girls who teach them it's okay. Mom smiles, tired and beautiful and present. And to the families we build when we stop pretending. Bear sits in the empty chair at our table, one eye hanging by a thread. You're almost gone, still listening. Some lessons take 10 years to fully learn. But they're worth it.